How to install the batteries in the China Post battery box. After unpacking it out of the box, you have to disconnect the cable that goes to the controller down here on the underside. Unlock the three locks. There's one here, here, and one there. That's that choke handle that I showed you on pulling the inside the glove compartment. It's got a set of 8 screws here and then 2 on the end to hold the cover down. You can use the manual screwdriver, but you'll be turning for a while to get those screws out. There's a lock nut on the underside of the screw. It may or may not drop out, so be ready to catch it and store them in a bin, 8 carton shells. Yep, there's one. There's this little 3mm metric screws. Part for the course, they probably included a couple extra in the case. It wouldn't surprise me. We're going to find out. It's the first time I've unboxed this year's model. This is the 2014 model, by the way. It's very similar to the 2013 China Post. Okay, now. Well, if you spin it fast, the nut comes out. Alright, we'll do this on the orientation of the plug. This is the left side of the bike, this is the right side of the bike. Actually, no, that's your backwards. This is the left side of the bike, that's the right side of the bike. The lid just comes vertically up. You may have a screw or two that didn't come out all the way. There's a lock nut that holds it on the bottom. And the lid just comes out. You can just leave the screws in there. That way you can just put them back in. So there's the battery box. There's the lock on the right hand side of the bike with a choke cable. And you include a set of battery cables. They're all the same length, so it doesn't matter which one you use. There's your power socket with a fairly substantial wire and screw terminals on the end for hot and ground. Unlike the 60-volt Black Edition, it does not have the ignition switch here because it's up front at the head end of the bike on the handlebars. So this just provides power to the bike. The cord's been known to wiggle loose from time to time. If you snag it on a branch or a piece of debris, it's possible to pull that cord loose and the bike won't operate, so you have to make sure that it stays plugged in there. A zip tie usually helps on the frame. And they put drain holes in the bottom so you won't collect rainwater. That's an improvement. Anyway, it's pretty tough ABS plastic. And you just orientate the batteries in a sequence of 5 in series, each being 12 to 15 volts. On top of each battery is actually a serial number. We went ahead and labeled them to make it easy to spot for inventory purposes. You want to install them in order because they were built and tested in that order, so you want to put them in the same way in the battery pack. If you're using used batteries, it doesn't matter as long as they're all the same voltage and capacity. You don't want to put a battery of a different capacity in the battery pack. So there's 1, 2, 3. Oh, that's right, they go into a different order. Remember correctly, some of these had to go sideways. 1, 2, 3, 4. And you want the 5th one at the end of the chain to be as close as possible to the ground terminal. There we go. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, or 4 and then 5. And we'll wire them in that order. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And the batteries are in the same numerical sequence from the serial numbers from the manufacturer. So you just wouldn't recommend using a powered screwdriver. Let's see, they didn't include the screws. They're not in the battery, so let's apply our own. These will come with the battery set if you purchase one from us. Well, they look like they got little lock washers on them. That's good. So connect to the first part of the chain. That's the start of your battery pack. That's where the hot, so to speak, is. And just torque these down till about 10-15 foot-pounds of torque. Doesn't really matter. Part of putting batteries in series is you go from ground on the first battery to the hot on the second battery. And you do that through the entire chain. So it's ground to hot, ground to hot, ground to hot, ground to hot. And that's the end of the chain. You remember the battery sequence is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we'll do the end of the battery chain just to eliminate confusion. Good idea, don't wear any rings, don't drop the screwdriver on it. There's potentially welding capacity voltages in here. Some people even go as far as putting on rubber gloves. If you don't feel comfortable doing this, any qualified electronic technician, TV repair guy, auto mechanic, bicycle technician that works on electric bicycles could do this for you. I would say no more than a nominal service fee. It's a good idea to keep the battery from freezing below 30 degrees, 32 degrees. It really affects the long-term capacity and the chemistry of the cells. Try to loop the wires so that they stay inside the corners of the battery box. So you don't have to worry about getting caught in the cover when you go to put it back on. Before you tighten the screw all the way down, get the cover ready to go on so you can cover the terminal. That, like that. So there's first battery. Yep, ground to hot. That's battery number 2. We got to go to battery number 3, ground to hot. Grab our handy dandy screw. Terminal. Watch where you loosen your wires. You don't want to be completing a circuit someplace where you don't want it. Guy up. As with everything that shakes and vibrates, probably a good idea about once every 6 months, maybe a year. Pop the cover, check it out. Make sure that the battery is still got tight screws on it. And this wire's a little on the short side. So I'll just lay it across there, put the battery terminal on there as best I can. Could be just a little bit longer, but it reaches. There's a little washer in there, and you have to kind of get it to crush down a little bit. That'll keep the screw from backing out, but hey, this is motorsports. It's fun. Stranger things have happened. Cover the battery terminal. Battery number 1, battery number 2, battery number 3. We're going to go from ground to hot on battery number 4. I know that sounds condescending, but we've had to repeat this about 16 times on the phone. unwire the chain. Let's see if we can loop this around so it doesn't get caught in the battery pack corner cover. No, that's a little better. We'll just do it that way. Maximum charge on these batteries are about 77 Fahrenheit. This is just common law for sealed lead acid or lead acid batteries in general. When they're cold, they will deliver less current. You could, if you wanted to, probably put the equivalent of 40 amp hour lithium ion batteries in here, but it'd set you back about $2,000. Or even a 20 amp hour battery pack equivalent to this one will give you 1,500 cycles instead of 500 or so. Would still set you back about $700 or $800. We're still searching for a vendor of decent quality for lithium-ion batteries. Chicago Electric Bicycles is about the only one I found in the United States right now. But that's what Eco Mopeds is all about. Cheap, effective, mass-produced batteries, motors, frame. It's not German engineered $3,000 bicycle. Well, it's reach. And nope, it won't. So what I can do is turn the battery number 5 around so that the positive terminal is closer, and I can jump over to battery number 4. So learn something new every day. Yep, I'm gonna have to take that battery terminal off. So this is the ground of the battery pack. I'll put it back on there. They don't include a rubber boot for it, but a piece of electrical tape would cover it if you really want to get anal about it. Loosen this one, rotate it around. There we go. Put the little boot over it. Wire around. So here's your complete battery pack. You can measure with a voltmeter and plug your charger into it. So just recapping once again, this is battery number 1, battery number 2, battery number 3, battery number 4, battery number 5. Notice the orientation of the terminals. Hot and ground, hot and ground, hot and ground, backwards, hot and ground. I could have put that one in the other way too, but that's okay. We'll just make the wires lay down in the case. So it's in series format, so this is the beginning of the battery pack connecting to the controller to deliver power to the bike. So just like you would stack AA batteries or putting car batteries in series for higher voltage for like 24 volts, this one makes 60 volts. So there's your first 12, there's the second 12, ground to hot, between battery number 1 and battery number 2. Battery number 2, that would be 24 volts from here to here if you wanted to measure and test it. So that'd be ground to hot in battery number 3. And from ground to hot on battery number 4, notice the wire is going from the battery number 4. That would be 36 volts of potential for these 3 batteries to go from here to this ground. from ground on the battery number 4 to battery number 5. That would give you, obviously, 5 batteries worth, or 4 batteries potential from here to here. That'd be 48 volts, thereabouts, given the battery charges from 12 to 15 volts each. And obviously, this is the end of the battery pack, so between here and here, you have a potential of 60 volts of power at 20 amp hours. Okay, so what I want to do here is try to form these heavy gauge wires. They look like number 8 size, maybe, number 10 size. Well, anyway, it's plenty of current for the motor controller. Take your cover you originally had. The 2 screws here line up on the left hand side. There's 8 screws in there. That last one didn't want to come down. That's all fine and dandy. Just line it up so that the screws come down through. The little nuts may or may not come out. If not, you can hold them and put them back in. Go back in there. There we go. So just get them lined up. Set the cover down on one side loosely. Rotate the battery pack around. And it is a bit heavy. Line up the 4 screws on the other side. There we go. You might have to push the batteries in with your fingers a little bit. You tend to want to bow the case outward. So you got to hold one side and compress a little bit until those screws get down in there. Start your screws on the other 2. Some of them have nuts, some don't. I recommend a little magnet wand, part pickup tool, something you can put on the end. Scoot the battery to the edge of your bench so you can get the tool in there. Nut goes up inside here. Come down with the screwdriver and just start it a couple turns until you start feeling the screw. Pull down the cover and then you do a crosshatch pattern. So we do this one, then I do that one, then I do this one, then that one. Then I probably get the 2 on the side, and then I do the ones in the middle. Just get each one started and then go around in this clockwise pattern. You're not going to super torque this thing. So that's the magic on that. Wire's trying to stick out. There we go. Now, is there a nut in there or not? I'll avoid the pun. Nope. I'll put a nut on the end of my little magnet wand tool. Feed the nut in there. Start the screw. To the point where it starts pulling the case down. That way I know all 8 side screws and the 2 in the front are going to approximately drive in. Battery weighs about 65 pounds, 5 of the case, so I'd call it 70 pounds. That's right up against the limit of what most people can safely lift, unless you're not a mechanic. So I'd recommend 2 people each carry a handle set the battery back down in the frame, then connect the power controller plug. It's going to make a little, sometimes it makes a little spark, a little squeak on the alarm system when you engage the battery. When it initially builds up the capacitive charge for the controller. So don't freak out when that happens. It'll go spark, squeak, squeak as the alarm system engages. There, put a screw in there. There you go. Put a nut on there. And drop your screwdriver. Nobody's perfect. So just go run in sequence, tighten all the screws down. I put it back in the bike. I would recommend 2 people or some kind of carrying or lift device. Maybe perhaps a cherry picker. I know if I did this all day, my back and neck would be completely trashed without some kind of power equipment. And that's pretty much it. That's how you assemble the battery pack on the China Post. Just make sure the screws are lined up, go around, torque the screws down in order with nuts. Thanks for watching.